I always wanted to be a sailor. I used to watch movies with Captain Blood, Errol Flynn swashbuckling, and it was the sort of thing that you always just wanted to really do. There's a certain risk involved in it, which I enjoy. It's a very physical thing to do.
Remember that old saying, those who go to sea for pleasure would go to hell for pastime? Well, this is how it was born.
The Sydney-Hobart race is certainly ranked among the top 3 ocean races of the world. The Bermuda race and the Fastnet race in the United Kingdom and the Sydney-Hobart. And I think 50 years now of Sydney-Hobart, it's a great race. I remember sailing with Sid Fisher in the Ragamuffin, and it was very rough in Bass Strait and nobody was eating anything. I was getting really hungry and I ate this boiled egg, and Sid Fisher still remembers. He said, "I think I'll see that egg again."
Anything can happen in these southern waters, and it often does. Hardly a race passes without its casualties of broken limbs, caught by a lashing spar or a wild jibe, or a man overboard, hurled from the deck by a sweeping wave.
This event will be a fitting tribute to our founders and those intrepid yachtsmen and women who set out on this heroic voyage 50 years ago.
So if you can imagine sort of driving a big yacht in a lot of wind and climbing up seas at maybe 25 or 30 feet high, with the odd one coming through at 35 or 40 feet, and the top few feet is breaking like surf on a beach, and you're not quite sure what's on the other side, so you're going up on a real angle, and suddenly the bow just drops, and so you're dropping 25, 30 feet, so it's like jumping off a 3-story building in a truck, and then coming up all standing on the concrete below. Crash, bang, the boat just shudders, and the crew down below are thrown out of their bunks.
Something about the sea fascinates humans. Men and women have wagered their lives and fortunes attempting to master it. Poets and writers have repeated images of power in their long history of writing and telling stories about the sea. The brutality of the ocean, the venom of a wave. In Sydney, Australia, on the day after Christmas, in a good but average boat, the extraordinary crew of the Carpe Diem set out on a history-making voyage. This is their story.
Once we decided that the program was viable, we had a boat and we could get to Hobart, and the crew started to form. Some of the guys were pretty green to sailing and hadn't done much at all, so we had to create a program that would give everybody the experience and to be able to cope with the Sydney to Hobart. Now we've got a good team.
No, don't dump it out. That's it. Pull it tight, mate.
My role on the boat is I work the mast. I'm a 4-deck crew. I work with Albert and Woody. We work spinnakers, spinnaker poles, halyards. Generally just run the foredeck, keep the foredeck together.
You can go down a bit if you want. Dump it out, Vinny. Okay.
On the boat, I mainly work the port side primary winch. Also do a lot of the work on the other winches in that area as well, but it's mainly pit work. I actually believe that in life everyone's got a dream, and I found that with me my dream was always sailing. I got drawn to the water when I was probably 7 years old, I think. Once I started playing around with the water and boats and that, it was like a drive. I wanted to keep sailing, I wanted to do more. It's more of a challenge.
I'm a 4-decky, and means that I'm at the front of the boat, and what we have to do is we change the sails, the head sails, and we're just basically labourers on the boat. Whatever the brain in the back wants, we just do at the front. I've heard from other Sydney to Hobart and other friends that have spoken to me in regards that this is one dangerous thing that you're attempting, and I agree with them. I want to experience it, but I want to get there safely. It's a matter of, I don't want to die, but I want to have the fun, getting close to it.
What I want is a bit of boat speed on, and then I want to try a tack, rolling it in and unrolling it. Okay, it's going to be really hard because we've got hardly any wind pressure here. Okay, do it. I'm David Peskin. I'm the skipper of the boat, and I'm the one that put the aluminium and the dacron and the fiberglass together to make the boat sail. I also suffer from dyslexia. That means I can't read and write, or it's difficult for me to read and write. But like all disabilities over the last 47 years, I've learnt new techniques of solving problems. And that's what we do on board Carpathian.
Race day. 50 years ago, in the first Sydney to Hobart race, the fleet consisted of just 9 boats. Today, crews from some 400 boats, large and small, prepare to set sail in the biggest fleet to ever contest an ocean race.
It's such a fantastic event. I'm tremendously pleased the forecasts are good because we've got a lot of yachts out there, but it's just a tremendous celebration of our 50th year, so I feel pretty good about it.
Oh, I think they're all tough. There's been occasional easy ones, but the majority are tough. You've got to strike it in 4 sort of different weather patterns, possibly in the one race, and you just don't know what to expect.
Something that no one expected was the entry of this crew in one of the world's most grueling ocean races.
My job on the boat is a sail trimmer. I get myself locked in down the back in the cockpit on one of the primary winches and run the spinnaker braces and sheets, and also do the trimming for the head sail. And it's basically a muscle roll. You sit there and when they say wind, you wind and wind and wind till your arms are about to drop off, and you wind a little bit more. And then sit there for 6 hours until you tack again. But primarily just a grinder, just a big winch monkey. We're actually getting to a stage now that we feel we can actually get the boat moving fast. So we've stepped up the pace a little bit, and rather than just being in the race and being one of the contestants, now what we want to do is try and get there as fast as we can and try and clean up as many boats as we can on the way down.
As the Carpe Diem is positioned for the start of the race, the tension mounts for each member of her very special crew.
Everybody on board is disabled in one way or the other. Albert lost his legs in a train accident. I broke my back in a motorcycle accident. David's our skipper and is also dyslexic. Alan had polio as a child. Richard has Parkinson's disease. Harold has lost 90% of his hearing. Jeff has lost 90% of his vision. Virginia has a muscle wasting disorder. Brian has had multiple heart operations. Vincent broke his back in a motorcycle accident. Woody shot his foot off in a shooting accident. Shit happens, you know, we're all able seamen and we've got a race to run.
Sydney Harbour and the Derwent River in Hobart are the only places on the Sydney to Hobart yacht race where the seas can be predicted to be reasonably calm. In both Sydney and Hobart, spectator craft complicate matters. In Sydney, there is the added complication of all the starters being in one place at one time.
My only real concern about the race is getting out of the harbour safely. There are nearly 400 boats entered. There'll be a huge spectator fleet.
Please have a look behind you, guys.
What about the donkey? Can you do that?
Oh, right. You don't want them on top of you.
In the initial race to get out of Sydney Harbour, the boats have to pass an unnatural funnel around a course marker. This concentrates all the boats in a specific, very occupied spot in the ocean. To continue the race, you must go round that mark. Then you sail to Hobart, 620 nautical miles away, over some of the roughest waters on the planet.
Okay, let's have that foot out on that bucket, so for that paint, Brian. Big time, sir.
I think sailing is the purest thing I've done. I mean, that is my life. And I've often asked myself, why is it so? I don't know. It's just you and the water and the wind and the sky. And there's no bullshit.
After Sydney Harbour comes the Pacific Ocean, which is hardly ever flat.
I'm Alan Cooper, and on primarily as a helmsman and a backup for David.
Boat doesn't feel good, doesn't feel right. Oh, it's on 6 or below all the time.
I was apprehensive when David asked me to go along, but the boat is great. The crew are unbelievable, really. The strings get pulled, the right things happen at the right times, and the team work well together.
Now, I won't make what's out of me is when I take the spinnaker. Nothing to do with food.
Yeah.
I think I'm coming good, so I just...
On all the boats, crew members must contend with seasickness. Sea legs have to be found.
I started sailing when I was about 18. My role is sailing master. So I, in discussion with David and the navigator, work out sail trim, sail selection. I also do a fair bit of steering. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease about 4.5 years ago. It makes me slower at doing things, like tying a knot, but sailing isn't always speed and movement. It's anticipation and fine-tuning. Sailing is quiet, peaceful, sometimes. Most of the time out there is noisy, frequently hectic in short bursts, and I find being able to meet those challenges and get past them, and get on to the next is exhilarating.